Hey guys, welcome to Bookish Islander. My name is Juan, and today I'm going to be doing the Choose Your Year book tag. This tag was originally created by Mel of Mel's Bookland Adventures, but I was tagged to do it by Sean, the Book Maniac. Thank you very much, Sean. I really like this tag, and if you want to see the videos by Mel and Sean, there are links to them in the description box. Okay, so this tag has 5 questions that I'm going to be answering at the, to the best of my ability. Okay, so question number 1 is choose a year and say why. Okay, I've chosen 1989 because I was 10 at the time, and it's a year that I remember very clearly. I think it's the first year in my life that I remember clearly. Of course, I have memories of some of the previous years, but 1989 always sticks to mind as like the first year that I fully remember and am aware of. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is because the most obvious choice would be to choose my birth year, and that was 1979. I have no problem saying that. But when I went and looked at the list of books published that year, none of them spoke to me. I don't think I've read any of them. And there weren't even any there that I wanted to read, and part of this tag is talking about the books that you've read published in one particular year, and also books that appeal to you and you might want to read in the future. So that didn't work with me, and that's why I went for 1989. Okay, question number 2 is which books published in that year have you read, or if none, heard of? Okay, I've read 5 books published in 1989. And I'm basing my answers on the Wikipedia page. On Wikipedia you can go and search for a particular year in literature. There's also a similar thing on Goodreads, but I've gone for Wikipedia. So from all the books there were 5 that I have read. And those are Laura Esquivel's Like Water for Chocolate, Gabriel Garcia Marquez's The General in Its Labyrinth, Kazuo Ishiguro, The Remains of the Day, Javier Marias's All Souls, and Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club. I like all 5 books. I would recommend all 5 books. They're all very different. I'll go very quickly through them. Like Water for Chocolate has elements of magical realism. It is set during the Mexican Revolution, so we're talking about the early 20th century. The magical realism element of the novel is that the food that is prepared and that the characters eat has a very personal effect on them, and that is directly linked to the state of the person who prepared the food. So at some point the characters eat food and they get really horny, other times they get really sad, other times they get really mad, other times they get sick. And something that I remember about this novel is that each of the chapters begins with a recipe for Mexican food. So if you're interested in Mexican food or magical realism or the Mexican Revolution, and it's a well-written book. I read it in the original Spanish, but I'm assuming the English translation would be just as good. And it's a book that you can easily find in Spanish or in English, and indeed in other languages, I'm sure. And then Garcia Marquez's The General in Its Labyrinth. Okay, because I've just talked about magical realism, let me tell you that this book has none of that. I know that Garcia Marquez is best known for his novel 100 Years of Solitude. The General in Its Labyrinth could not be further away from that. It's a psychological portrayal of General Simon Bolivar, who fought against the Spaniards for Latin American independence. So he's credited with having liberated countries such as Venezuela, Colombia, and Panama, and possibly others. So it's interesting because this book is because it's about a very well-known and hugely mythologized historical figure who is admired by people from all kinds of ideologies. And if you know anything about what's going on in Venezuela right now, you'll know what I mean. But anyway, even if you don't, I think it's an interesting book, and yeah, I would recommend it. Then Kazuo Ishiguro's Remains of the Day. Unfortunately, the movie adaptation is what comes to mind, and I wouldn't want to talk about that because it's a totally different thing from the totally separate thing from the book. I would just say that I'm not a huge fan of Ishiguro's writing, but having said that, I haven't read this book in a long time, so I can't really talk about the quality of the writing or anything like that. It's one of his best known novels, so if you're interested in Kazuo Ishiguro, I think you could do worse than to begin by this book. And then Javier Marias All Souls. Well, Javier Marias is one of Spain's most one of Spain's best known writers. He's widely published. I think every one of his books is published into English, and so I think he does have a readership in the English-speaking world. He's also an Anglophile, and this book is partly biographical. It's about a Spanish academic who's spending some time at Oxford, and I think I would recommend it because of the observations that the characters, the outsider type of observations that the character makes on British culture. And I think that could be fun to read while all this Brexit shitstorm is falling all around us and even on us at the moment. And then Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club. Again, that was made into a major movie. I've seen both. I mean, I've read the book and I've watched the movie. I read the book before I watched the movie, but I watched the movie shortly after. I like both. I would recommend both. But the book, again, I haven't read it in a long time, but it's about this cross-generational portrayal of Chinese Americans, just to be really broad about it. And it's a book centered on female characters. So you see the contrast between the mother who was born and spent a lot of her life in China, but then had to go to America, and the circumstances in which she had to do that. And you see the daughter who was born in America on the West Coast, and kind of the schism or the kind of the valley that separates them, and also what unites them. So yeah, those were the books that I read but I didn't read them in 1989, but they were published in 1989. Then the third question is, are there any books published in that year that sound interesting and would you read them now? And yes, there are. I've took down 3 books that were published in 1989 that I haven't read but I would want to read. One of them is Rose Tremaine's Restoration. Rose Tremaine is an English writer, and I don't think she gets the credit that she possibly deserves. She's a writer that I've read very little by, but I've always wanted to read more about, and Restoration is one of her most famous novels, I think, so it's one that I would probably pick up if I wanted to read more by her. Then there's José Saramago's The Year of the Siege of Lisbon. José Saramago was a Portuguese writer. He was a Nobel Prize winner. I adored his books. He was very prolific, so I've only read a small portion of his oeuvre, but I've enjoyed every book that I've read by him. In fact, I'm rereading one of them now, and I'll probably talk about it on my April wrap-up in the next few weeks or whenever. And yeah, he's a writer I'm interested in. I must say that The Year of the Siege of Lisbon is not one of the books that I would read. There are other books by him that I want to read first before I get to this, but yeah, I would want to read anything by him anyway, so that's The Year of the Siege of Lisbon. And then the last book is Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum. I love Foucault, the French philosopher. I'm not alone in that. I have no idea what this book is about, but I've always been curious about Umberto Eco's writing. I've never read anything by him. I want to, I will. And this is one of the books that I would want to read just because I want to read Umberto Eco and it has Foucault in the title. Okay, then the next question is the most obscure sounding book published that year. And a lot of them actually are very obscure to me. Like there's one by Nick Cave called "And the Ass Saw the Angel." No idea. There's also a writer called Larry Bond, and he wrote something called Red Phoenix. Or Hugh Cook, who wrote The Wicked and the Witless. I have no idea about these authors or these books, and there are lots of them, so I couldn't even just choose one. Apologies. Then the final question is the strangest book cover, and I couldn't have access to all the covers of all these books. And of course, I guess like a lot of them would have different covers. But I found one that I was WTF about it, which is by Ian Banks, the Scottish writer. Again, I think I've only read The Wasp Factory by him, and I barely remember it. Yeah, he published a book called Canal Dreams. And yeah, you check out the cover and see what you think. I think it's very strange. Although I guess it makes sense because you could interpret it as the dirty water in English, in a canal in Britain, I guess. Anyway, so I believe that's a tag. I'm done. Those were the 5 questions. Just please comment if you've read any of these books, or if you're interested in any of them, or have anything to say about the year 1989 in literature. And if you make videos about books or about anything else, but from time to time you make videos about books, I'm officially tagging you, whoever you are. So just look at the questions there in the description box for this video and go ahead and knock yourself out and have fun. And if you're new to this channel, I hope you've liked what you've seen, and I would hope you consider subscribing. That makes me very happy when I get new subscribers. And also, please go ahead and share this video or any other of my videos on your social media platforms. And I hope to see you all again very soon. Okay, bye-bye.